What's going on, guys? Waco from Revolution here with Wilhelm Schmid, CEO of Lange Söhne, one of my favorite people, and he's wearing a watch that everyone at the fair is talking about. It is the new Odysseus, but in incredible grade 5 titanium and finished to a level I've never seen a titanium watch finished.
Well, thanks. Good to see you. Good to be back in person.
Yes.
And yes, it's one of the privilege that you have as a CEO. You can wear the novelties.
Of course.
And that's a proper prototype.
Yes.
And I share a little story with you. In summer, Tony was wearing that watch.
Really? Okay.
But of course with a different face so that nobody was spotting what we were
so
doing.
funny. Right.
But we just wanted to find out, how is the wear of titanium?
Right.
How is the decoration, the finish? How resilient, how resistant is it? And if you have a look at the watch, you can't find any scratch. Even it's been, and Tony's a big man, huh? and
he's a drummer.
Of course, yeah. So he's using these watches. So I think that's just a good illustration of how tough titanium is as a material. But what we also learned is the finish of the surface is almost hardening it, is hardening the surface, and that makes it, quite scratch resistant.
I mean, it's absolutely stunning to behold. Willem, when you launched Odysseus, your first sports watch, and it made already so much waves because it was in a metal that is like a bit of a mythological metal when it comes to Lange culture. It wasn't steel, right? And we all know the stories of the steel Lange ones and the one steel double split and all these kind of watches. But you were making for the first time a watch that I think for Lange collectors and for watch fans was almost like a give back to the community. It's like, here it is, we're going to make a steel watch, and now people can actually have one on their wrist. Although, of course, what quickly transpired was the number of watches that you were making and the number of people who want to buy it was so vastly disproportional that it's actually really tough to get one.
Wait, let me just jump onto this because I believe I need to explain that just a little bit because it is important. We can produce 5,500 watches.
Right. And
we have watchmaker at different levels.
Yes.
Not everybody can work on every watch.
Right.
And the Odysseus is, from a watchmaking point of view, in the same level of quality or of complication as a Lange 1.
Wow.
So the Lange 1 is in short supply, the Odysseus is in short supply.
Right.
So to move a watchmaker from a gap to create a bigger gap there to make a tinier gap there doesn't make any sense. So we cannot produce more watches. It's impossible.
Right. It's a human resource.
It is,
issue, right?
the biggest and shortest resource we have are skilled people.
Right.
And there is no way for us to just increase this number.
Right.
We have our own watchmaking school, we actually celebrate the 25th anniversary of it this year.
Right.
And in good years, we managed to bring 10 to 12 new watchmaker.
Wow.
And 1 or 2 new toolmaker out of it.
Right.
And then you need the engraver, you need the finisseur. So that's the way we do watches.
Right.
5,500, about 500 people in the manufacture.
Right.
Which is about 80% of all our people.
Right.
And I do apologize for it, but it is what it is. That's an Lange Söhne, like the Lange 1, like the others. It will be short supply, I think, forever.
What was really interesting to me, and I think it's really lovely for us to be able to meet now after what we all experienced collectively as human beings, right? This incredible pandemic that we just lived through. But it was really interesting because during that 2 years, I think that watch buyers had this collective search for authenticity, And what happened was that in some ways everyone rapidly arrived at Lange. Because when it comes to watch brands, there's very few that have that level of authenticity, that have a spirit that's so human, and that it's expressed in the watches that are so distinct. And it's funny because, every time I look at a Lange, whether it's from the front and certainly from the back, it resonates with human hands, with human spirit. What is that and what's so special about Lange in that regard?
And whoever has been English should know what I'm talking about. It's the people, really. They are not. Even if I would tell them we need to be quicker, we need to accept shortcuts, they would not follow me. It's that devotion to the highest standard, which is our theme for this year.
Right.
That's not a word. That's not a sentence. That's a mindset.
Yes.
And that mindset is not shared by, the exco and then the rest. It's shared by our organization. It goes for the lady that does the accountant as well as for the watchmaker that assemble the most complicated watch. This is what we are and who we want to be.
That's wonderful.
And again, the flip side of that coin is we'll always be limited in what we can produce. We also cannot go down again. That's the other thing, because I can't just fire and hire people. Who's with us is usually with us for a long, long time.
Incredible. Back to this watch, the titanium Odysseus, it is stunning to me because when I look at it, the complexity in terms of the finish that's been applied to every aspect of it, whether it's the bezel, the bracelet, even the sides of the links inside of the bracelet.
And tell me, I can share with you, that was a steep learning curve to get that titanium to polish is very different to any other material. It's not that easy.
Yes, in fact, it's very, very challenging.
Exactly.
To get that mirror polish, which
yes.
It's almost like a showcase for the handwork that you're capable of. And I have to say that this watch is absolutely stunning. And the color of the dial is perfect as well.
Which will change actually if you expose it to natural light. Because we call it ice blue, and here it looks like grayish. But if you expose it to ultraviolet light, you will see that it's turning lighter blue.
Incredible.
Not massive, but a little bit.
Amazing. Wilhelm, can we ask you about the other watches that you have?
Let me, again, I think we have scarcity and shortage of watches even here.
Yes. That's why you're in the booth.
but we do have, we've seen this one, but this is the other. And what you will see on the first spot, and on purpose,
that's so cool.
I put the previous Lange, Grand Lange one next to the other two.
Yes.
And for the first time, I think it's pretty clear, shaving 0.6 millimeter of height off a watch, which in watchmaking world is huge.
Yes.
But you can clearly see
that's the original.
That's the original.
And this is the new watch. And actually, when you look at them in terms of profile, it's very significant.
And what I love on the new one is it looks like there is no crystal covering the dial.
Absolutely.
It's just, you're almost scared that you can touch the hints.
It's extraordinary.
And the same on the other side, because there's almost no air between the movement and the crystal case back.
That's fantastic.
It just gives it for me, it is even more elegant, if that's possible, than the previous one. And that was the reason why we wanted to change it. The movement is pretty new, because the movement we only launched 2015.
Yes.
And it's working perfectly. But what we also realized is that if you put, at least in a window, a normal Lange 1 and the Grand Lange 1 next to each other, you don't see the difference. Because our eyes is unable to spot 2.5 millimeter difference in diameter. And that's why this one is very different for that reason. And I have to say, I was never the biggest fan of a Grand Lange 1.
Yes.
I always liked the traditional one.
Yes.
This one is actually...
It's spectacular.
It is.
It's
Thank
really
you
great.
so much for saying it. Thank you.
Well, one question I want to ask you is the following. What we've seen also concurrent with the really strong focus on Lange from collector community, the expansion to a younger generation also, which I think is really interesting as well, is the rise of your watches and secondary prices, some of which has been quite extreme.
Oh yeah.
If I look today at the secondary prices of lumens, for example, it's stratospheric. What do you attribute this to?
I say that, there's a smile in my face, but there are tears in my eyes as well, because it's just making it more challenging. In the past, we did work with passionate collector, and they didn't take too much care about resale value and all that, because they had no intentions to sell it anyhow. Right. Now we have to deal with a lot more people. Right. And some people just want to invest.
Yes.
And I don't want to be disrespectful, But
That's not the.
not our main target.
Yes, I totally.
And I don't mean it arrogant by no means, and I appreciate everybody who spends so much money on our watches, but you know, our heart is with the people that really love fine watchmaking, and that's what we're here for. What we realized, quite interesting, we launched the Odysseus, we touched base on that on the 24th of October 2019. Then there was that massive hype.
Right.
And a lot of young people then, you know, I want the steel watch, entered the shop, and of course they couldn't get the steel watch.
Right.
But for the first time they took the time to look at a Lange one,
Yes.
an 1815 up and down,
Yes.
or an 1815 chronograph.
Right.
You know, very few young people have the funds to go for a datograph, but
Yes.
very soon they came for the Odysseus, and then they were looking to the other watches.
fell in love with the other
and you
watches.
have no idea how many of them ended up in buying an 1815 or a Lange one, because they said, look, I couldn't get this watch, but actually now I understand a lot better what Lange Söhne stands for.
And in fact, they were the lucky ones because those are really hard watches to get.
As I said, at the moment, and again, is not only the demand that is
Right.
outstripping our supply by far. I also admit that we struggle a little bit at the moment in Glashütte with COVID.
Yes.
You know, it's,
Oh,
it's
of
at
course.
the peak at the moment,
Of course.
and we have whole departments that don't work at the moment.
Wilhelm, I thank you from the bottom of my heart for joining me.
Why,
Again,
always good to see you.
Congratulations. Honestly, I think that the watch that you're wearing on your wrist will probably sweep all the awards this year. It's something and be the object of desire for millions of people around the world. Congratulations, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Wei. Good
It's
to
such a
see
pleasure.
you.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Cheers, bye-bye.